And it's only 11:13. All right, let's go. Hey, it's Becca, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I have filmed this video. This is the 5th time now. 3 of those times, it took me like 2 hours to film, and it was so long, it was so stupid, and as I'm editing it, it's like, no one's gonna want to watch this. I wouldn't watch this. So here we are. I rewrote Voltron. It took me about a month to actually write because I went into a crazy amount of detail. It was so long. The document ended up being like 30 something pages, very long. And as I tried to talk about it and film it, it just was not coming out the way I wanted it to. It just felt really drawn out and just boring. I wouldn't have watched it. If somebody else had posted it, I wouldn't have watched it. So I came up with something else. I condensed what I had written. It's now 13 pages long. I have my laptop right here. I'm gonna be looking at it the entire time because I can't remember all of this. But it's 13 pages instead of 30 something. So I'm glad that I was able to condense it. So yeah, I have my rewrite. I'm going to put the full rewrite in the description for you guys. I'll leave a link to it. So if you want to read the full thing, along with this or afterwards so you can get more context. I'm pretty proud of how it turned out, but it will be there if you want to read it. So anyways, let's get into the rewrite. Alright, I do want to put out a couple of disclaimers before I do this. I am not saying I can write this better than the original show writers. I am a high school senior. They are professionals. This is me having fun. This is one big fan fiction, basically. Yeah, that's how I'm taking it as. If you want to take it as something different, then you can, but that's how I'm doing this, that's how I'm going about this. So yeah, keep that in mind while I'm doing this. And yeah. Alright, season 1. So season 1 is going to be the season I changed the least, so I did it a little differently than the way I wrote out the other ones. I just did the things that I'm keeping the same from the original show and the things that I'm switching up. So again, I'm down at my laptop for this because it's just too much to remember. So the things from season 1 that are going to be the same. The Kerberos mission opening is going to be the same. I liked that, only it's just going to be Shiro and Matt this time. The first episode is going to be the same, except we're going to split up all of the paladins finding their lions into separate episodes. They're all going to be, finding a lion is going to be each separate episode instead of just clumped into one longer episode. So the whole thing with them fighting a new monster per episode, that's going to be the same. I really liked the training episode where they're trying to form Voltron. I think that was good, so we're going to keep that one the same. The character dynamics are pretty much going to be the same. Pidge is still very focused on finding her brother, and Ulaz is still going to be the Galra soldier that helped Shiro escape. And here are the things that are going to be a little bit different about this season. Lotor is going to be the main villain for the first couple of seasons instead of Zarkon. They're just gonna basically switch spots. So it's gonna be Lotor first and then Zarkon afterwards. So at a certain point in the first few episodes, Keith and Lance are going to be captured by Lotor, and Lotor is gonna mention to Keith that he sees potential in him, something that he hasn't realized yet. So the episode where Hunk finds his line is gonna be combined with the Balmera episode. I want there to be something a clear history between Lotor and Allura, but something that she's just refusing to talk about. The Black Lion is going to be hidden in one of Alfor's secret research labs, and this is where Allura is going to find some of her father's old notes on Altean alchemy. Lotor is going to be the one sending all of the beasts to attack Team Voltron, and they aren't going to be able to form Voltron right away. It's going to take a while for them to be able to do it. I don't want them to be able to do it in the first episode. Alright, for this I do have the entire season finale written out, and I'm going to tell you guys that because I think that's a good way to kind of show the vibe of the show, and it's going to be the same thing. I have the season finale completely written out for each of the seasons. So here's the season 1 season finale. So a beast that they're fighting, one that hasn't been sent by Lotor, delivers a message saying that they have someone important to one of the paladins, and in order to get them back, they have to turn over the lions. Everyone other than Pidge is very confused, and they don't go after the monster when it retreats. At this point, Pidge has not really told them why she is in space and what she's looking for. She's just looking for something. So this is where she explains that her brother went missing on the same Kerberos mission that Shiro was a part of. And I don't really want her father to be missing as well. It just felt like she was always more focused on Matt. Maybe that's just who she was able to find more information about, but it just felt like she was always more focused on Matt. So we're just gonna stick with that. And this is when Shiro realizes why Pidge always seems so familiar to him. Like, his memory is still kind of like messed up and weird, but Pidge always seemed familiar to him, but he could not pinpoint why. And it's because she looks very similar to Matt. And this is where he remembers Matt. And Pidge's frustration with him throughout the entire season has like finally made sense. So now they're going to form a plan to sneak onto the ship and rescue Matt without turning over the lions. Allura reluctantly will go onto a transport alone and demand to speak to Lotor as a distraction while everyone sneaks on to look for Matt. They don't know that this beast has not been sent by Lotor. They don't know that. We do, but they don't. So they think that he has to be on Lotor's ship, but he's not. We're gonna come back to that. So, when she gets onto the ship, she and Lotor are like arguing, and she's asking like, how could you side with a father after everything that he's done? And Lotor's just like, it's complicated. I'm not gonna get into it. He then asks Allura to join him instead so they could be the duo that they were before. And Allura seems like tempted to, but then she's like able to break out of the restraint she was placed in, and like the two of them fight around the throne room. I think that'd be like a really cool fight to have. So at the same time, the paladins are sneaking around, being guided by Pidge from a control room. At a certain point, Shiro is grabbed and taken into a room by a Galra soldier, who he recognizes as the one who helped him escape. Ulaz asks Shiro why he's here, and Shiro says like, we're looking for my friend, the one that was like captured with me. And Ulaz is like super confused, like there are no Earthling prisoners on here. This is when they realize that they're on the wrong ship. Ulaz then tells Shiro that he needs to like get his friends and leave because he just got a transmission that Sarkhan is coming. Because if they wait any longer, they're not going to be able to leave. They go their separate ways, and Shiro tells the others like what happened and like, guys, we gotta go. We need to leave like right now. And they're just like, no. Matt has to be here. We need to find him. But deep down, she has had this feeling that like, okay, Matt's definitely not here. Ulaz is able to get Allura out of the throne room and gets her to everybody else so they can leave. And they manage to get back to the castle, and as soon as they do, Zarkon's ship appears in the distance. They start fighting all the ships that have been sent out, and they're doing okay for a while, but they soon become overwhelmed. And this is when they finally form Voltron for the first time. I want this to be like this epic moment in the season finale. I think it'd be so cool to have that be a much harder goal for them to achieve, and I think this is the perfect moment for that to happen. But even with Voltron, they're not very experienced with it, so they decide, great, we took out some ships, let's go. Alright, so the way I'm doing this season is different than the other ones. This is going to be the same way I talk about the other seasons. So a lot more has been changed with these like next 3 seasons that I've written, so you can't do like, this is what we're keeping the same, this is what we're keeping different, because it just won't work with that. Alright, so the first big thing to happen is Hunk decides that he needs to go back to Balmera, and Lance agrees to go with him. They get there, they're fighting the Galra that has like infiltrated the planet, but then another beast shows up and they need to call for backup. And the other team members are like really mad at them for like sneaking off without telling them, and Lance takes the brunt of the anger, saying that it was his idea because he doesn't want like them to be mad at Hunk. He's like, nah, it was my idea, they'd be mad at me. And this is going to end up leading to a lot more tension between the team later, because this is really going to have an effect on Lance. So Shiro and Keith are also going to have their conversation where Shiro says that he wants Keith to lead the team if anything ever happened to him. My stomach is growling so much right now. I'm like so hungry. I want there to be a flashback episode where the Paladins talk about their lives before they like went into space or whatever, and there's a couple important things I want to take away from this. Allura and Lotor's families were like super close before the war started, and this is where we're going to introduce Adam as Shiro's long-term boyfriend. And I want to keep the episode where they find like Ulaz and the base he's in the same, as well as finding the Blade of Marmora's base. We're going to keep that one the same as well. And yes, we're going to keep Keith being half Galra a thing. Along with Keith being like revealed to be half Galra, the same kind of tension between him and the other team members with like finding this out is gonna be there as well. So due to how they're being treated by the team, Keith and Lance end up pulling away from the other team members, often training together, and like that's gonna really bring out the competitive side of each other, because I think that'd be fun. And because of all this tension, the team just has not been working well together. This ends up being a problem in a mission where they plan to capture Lotor and take him prisoner. The Blades and Allura are gonna go in, get Lotor, while Voltron acts as a distraction, but Voltron's part of the mission does not go well. They're not working well together. They try and put it aside for the greater good, but it's not working. They can't. Something's wrong with their dynamic, and it's just not. it ends up being almost like causing them to fail. So here's how the season finale is going to go down. There's going to be two very important conversations. The first one's going to be between Lotor and Allura. Lotor's been captured, and now the two of them are talking. Allura confronts him about her doubts, and Lotor is like sticking with his like cold and short answers, really not even answering the questions. He's just kind of like dodging them, like, I'm not talking to you. It goes on for a while. Allura's trying to understand what changed in the last 10,000 years, like, and how Lotor could just side with his father when they both witnessed all of the damage and destruction that he's caused. However, it seems like even Lotor doesn't really know the answer to this question, but he's trying his best not to let her know that. But Allura's smart. She's catching on that something's not quite right with him. She then says something, I'm not really sure what. It could be something that the two of them used to say, a promise that they made, and it like triggers something in Lotor's mind, causing him to shake out of like the cold mentality that he's in. His face then changes into a more scared expression, and he tells her that she needs to help him and that he's being controlled. He doesn't want to do what he's doing, but he has no choice, and that he's being controlled by... His head shakes for a moment, and his expression turns back to the cold one he'd been wearing before, and now he's just refusing to say anything. Allura is left speechless, confused, but slightly relieved because the Lotor that she knew is still in there somewhere. She just has no idea how to get him back. The second conversation is going to be between the other 5 paladins. They're all very angry with each other about how badly they did in battle, despite the fact that they still succeeded. After everything that's happened in the past few episodes, it's kind of Keith and Lance versus Shiro, Hunk, and Pidge. The latter is kind of blaming the former for pulling away constantly, and if they hadn't done that, they would not have done as badly as they just did in battle. Keith and Lance are arguing that if it wasn't for the way the team had been making them feel throughout the past few weeks, they wouldn't have felt the need to pull away. This idea is dismissed by the others because they don't really believe that they were ever doing that, and then Lance just goes off. He goes through and lists all of the times the team has made him feel inadequate as a paladin and just as a person in general. This makes everyone go silent, even Keith, because he and Lance never really got a chance to talk about why they were never really with the others. It was always just the two of them kind of hanging out all the time. They just was like, all right, cool, man, let's like train or something. I don't know. And so after this, Lance storms away, followed quickly by Keith. He eventually catches up to him in the control room with Lance looking out into the planet that they're on. They barely get the time to talk about what just happened when Lance sees something in the distance. Lance runs at Keith and tackles him, shielding him from the incoming blast that breaks through the castle, and this is really similar to the scene early on in the show where Lance saves Karan. Alright, season 3. That was quite a cliffhanger. I liked that we're ending on that. I think that's going to be a really good way to end season 2. So, season 3, we're going to open up right where we ended with Keith waking up and attempting to take Lance into one of the medbay pods. They meet up with the others where they end up getting in a fight with Lotor's generals. And we can have that go down as the fight with Sendak, after Lance got hurt. It could be that same kind of fight. And we can do the bonding moment here. We can change up a little bit of what Lance says though, because we are a good team. They've been working as a team for forever. We can change it up a little bit. I don't really know what he would say, but we can do that. So afterwards, 2 groups are going to go on missions to get supplies to repair the ship, with Shiro and Pidge going together and Keith and Hunk going together. On Pidge and Shiro's mission, someone confuses Pidge for Matt, and they give them information about where Matt might be. So this is going to lead to the same episode where she does find Matt. I love that episode so much. The emotion is so good in it. We have to keep it. And on Keith and Hunk's mission, this mostly just going to be them talking about the issues that the team has been having and trying to work through that so they can move forward as a team together. So while all of this is going on, Lance finally wakes up from the medbay pod and talks with Allura. He mentions that he would have been very happy to date her at one point, but he values their friendship more now, and she agrees. She also talks about how she feels as though something was really off with Lotor, and that the person that she knew is still in there. So after this, everyone meets up again, and we can have them reconciling after the huge fight that they just had. And then we can do a couple more episodes of them liberating worlds. We can do the same episode with the Alkari and have Pidge truly connect with Green, and we can do the same episode where Hunk really connects with Yellow as well. After this, I want to do the flashback episode where they explain everything that happened with the war. Except it's going to be Allura explaining it instead of Karan. This flashback episode is going to be the same as before, but here are a few little changes I want to make to it. Voltron is going to be a myth that they were told stories about when they were younger. It's not going to be something that Alfor built. Allura and Lotor grew up as best friends because their families were very close and they always spent time together. The Paladins, alongside Alfor and Zarkon, eventually retire, making way for a new wave. They want to focus on their families rather than constantly going off and fighting and like saving the world and stuff, or worlds. So when they get new paladins, Allura and Lotor happen to be two of them that are able to connect with the lions. They connect with blue and red, Allura and blue, Lotor and red. So like that's not something their parents were expecting at all. So an experiment is going to go wrong, Zarkon and Nerva go crazy, and they start going after Voltron, destroying every world, like destroying the worlds of each of the paladins that pilot it as like a way to try and like get them to give Voltron to them. The paladins decide to sever their bonds with the lions completely to protect their locations, and Alfor hides them also so they don't know exactly where they are. And after this, Alfor puts Allura, Lotor, and Karan into cryosleep, and that's all Allura remembers. After this, Allura tells everyone else what she told Lance about her feeling about Lotor. They don't really believe her at first, but then they get this unknown transmission, which happens to be from Lotor. He sounds scared and is able to get out that he's being controlled by his mother, and is able to get out like his coordinates before the lion goes dead. Allura wants to go after him, but the others aren't really too sure because they think it's a trap. They decide to wormhole a little further away from the actual coordinates to... Stomach! I'm trying to talk. They decide to wormhole... I can't do this today. I can never seem to film. Every time I want to film, I'm just stumbling over my words. It's not good. Voice crack. It's not good. Alright, and here is the season 3 season finale. So when they get there, they're surprised to be met with Zarkon's lead ship along with several other large ships. Laura gets the feeling that Lotor has to be on Zarkon's ship, and now the others are realizing how out of their league they are, but there's no turning back now, because if they don't do this now, there's no telling when they're going to be able to. They decide that Voltron's going to act as a distraction, hoping to get Zarkon to come out and fight them himself so Allura would have an easier time breaking into the ship and getting Lotor, similar to their plan from the previous season. Karan says that he's going to contact the Blade of Marmora as well as the rebels that Matt are a part of to get them help, knowing that this is going to be a really difficult battle. The plan seems to be working for a while, with Voltron being able to take out many fighters. Even though Zarkon hasn't come out to fight them, Allura is still able to get onto the ship. However, once Allura is able to find Lotor, he's strapped down to a table surrounded by druids and Hagar herself. It's going well, and at a certain point, Allura is able to do something that is sort of similar to Hagar's magic. It's only light magic, so doing Hagar and taking away her ability to shapeshift, revealing her to be Nerva, Lotor's mom. Hagar is down for the moment, so Allura takes this as an opportunity to get Lotor and leave, and they manage to get back to the castle. At the same time, that wind is going to drive me crazy. At the same time, with how many fighters that Voltron has been able to take down, including some of the other larger ships that Zarkon, that are part of Zarkon's fleet, Zarkon decides that it's finally time for him to join the fight. Throughout the season, we've seen him and Hagar working on something, and now it's revealed what it actually is. His big mech suit that he uses in the end of season 2. So a small number of blades and rebels have shown up, and they're the ones that are mainly responsible for taking down the bigger ships. So So Voltron can focus their attention on Zarkon. That's what I'm trying to say. So I want this fight to go very similar to the fight that they had with Zarkon at the end of season 2. However, it's not really going to go as well as that fight did. It starts out okay, but after a while it's very clear that Voltron is outmatched. Shiro then gets an idea. He knows that they've already done a lot of damage to the Galra, and it's going to take a while for them to come back from this, and being able to do some damage to Zarkon would be ideal. The Black Lion then tells him what needs to be done, and he agrees to it. They charge at Zarkon one final time, and Shiro gives some of himself up to the lion, and that extra power that Voltron gets from that is enough to defeat Zarkon for good. This causes the lions to break apart from Voltron, and they're picked up at the castle, and the others don't realize that Shiro's in a coma until they get back to the Black Lion and find him there. The ending of the season is going to be the darkest out of all of them, putting them at their lowest point yet, even though they just defeated Zarkon, one of the things they've been working towards since the beginning. Alright, season 4! There's going to be a lot of changes in this season, so be prepared. I want this to be a time skip to several months in the future, and I want to do a little bit of a redesign for the characters, so I drew that. Should be on screen now. Here they are. Yes, I'm happy with it. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I think it'll be cool. So, Shiro's in a coma, his vitals are fine, but there's no sign that he's going to wake up anytime soon. Lotor's also been very helpful in giving them information on how to liberate certain worlds. He is allowed to move around the castle, but he has to stay on the castle. That's their deal. So after a new threat from Hagar emerges, they're forced to do the lion switch. None of them had touched the Black Lion. They didn't want to because they didn't need to. They were doing okay with the 4 lions they already had, but now we're gonna do the lion switch. And also, we're gonna have them switch suits so they match the lion they're piloting. Why they didn't do this, in the original show. I don't know. But I need this for my sanity. I need to see this. So we're gonna do this. So after the battle, Keith talks with Shiro and mentions that he feels like he isn't ready to lead and he just doesn't think he can do it. After this, he storms away and starts training very angrily, only to be stopped by Lance not long after. Lance tells him that it's fine, you're gonna do fine. And that there's been moments where Keith has led the team before, little small moments, and I want people to take away that clearly their dynamic has changed. They're not rivals anymore, they're actually really good friends. So yeah, I want that to show that they've moved past the rivalry. I want to do a training episode with Keith, Lance, and Allura for them to become more comfortable with flying their lions. This isn't going to have them truly establish their bond with the lions, just so that they're comfortable working fully as a team again. The next episode is going to be the Monsters and Mana episode with Keith taking Shiro's place in the game. That's such a fun episode. We have to include it. I had to have it in my rewrite. So Allura and Lotor finally get a chance to talk about everything that's happened, and Allura asks him about the burst of magic that she was able to do while she was fighting Hagar. Lotor says that he thinks it might be Altean alchemy, and Allura then remembers the notes that she took from her father's lab, and the two of them work on growing and perfecting her skills over the next few episodes. Keith also is gonna get a chance to talk to Lotor about what Lotor meant when he had captured Keith very early on in the show. And Lotor says that he could tell that Keith was like him, basically half Galra, same as his generals. He then offers Keith a chance to join him and his generals after all of this is over and be with people like him. Keith doesn't turn down the offer, but he doesn't accept it either. The next episode is going to be this Mindscape type episode, a more different psychological attack from Hagar. The Paladins have to work through their darkest memories, coming out stronger and more bonded afterwards as a result. They have to fight a beast at the end of this episode, and this is where they finally form Voltron as a new unit. The next few episodes are going to be Keith, Lance, and Allura really bonding with their lions. You can come up with what you think would really push them to bond with their lions, but that's what I think this will be a good time for them to do that. Alright, so Allura is going to come across some spell from one of her father's old notes, an awakening spell, and she wants to try it on Shiro. It takes a while, but with some encouragement, she finally gets it and Shiro wakes up. And this process can turn his hair white if you want him to have a redesign too, or if you liked that design. So Keith finally gets to have a conversation with Shiro about his place on the team, and that he'd be happy to give Black back to Shiro if that's what he wanted. Shiro says that's the opposite of what he wants, and he's really proud of what Keith has been able to accomplish while he's been gone. So because Allura's been working with her alchemy and she's getting really good at it, Shiro's back, they're alright, let's do this, let's take Hagar down. So, and they start to form a plan to go after Hagar with the help of the Blades and the rebels. Before they carry out the plan though, Pigeon Hunt go on a recruiting mission to get help from all of the worlds that they've helped liberate, and it's gonna be a fun callback episode. So now they have a plan and they're ready to carry it out. Just before they're about to leave, Lance stops in to talk with Keith. This is gonna be really similar to the conversation they had in season 3. It's gonna be a little different conversation though, but same vibe. Lance is saying that he's not really sure how this whole thing is going to turn out, and if the plan's going to work, and if they're going to defeat Hagar or not, or whatever, and he's rambling, and Keith just stops him, dude, get to the point. Lance then says if something goes wrong and they don't make it back from this, he wants Keith to know how he feels, and that for a while now he's liked him as more than a friend, and he really just wants him to know, even if he doesn't feel the same way, and it's only fine if he doesn't feel the same way, and he's rambling again. Keith then grabs his hand, telling him to stop talking for once, and says that he's been feeling the same kind of way for a while, but he's really scared because he's never really felt this way about anyone before. And he also has issues with opening up to somebody because everybody that he's ever been close to has either died or left him. So he does say that he wants to take it slow and maybe work out what this means for them after all this is over, and Lance agrees, and then they go their separate ways, getting ready for, hopefully, their last mission. Alrighty, it's time to get to the season finale! I'm so excited for this one. It's a little long, but it's good. So, look, I don't really know how to write fight scenes, but here are a few important things that I think need to be included in the fight. I want to see some sort of upgrade to Voltron now that all of the Paladins have really established a strong bond with their lions. I want Hagar to somehow get control over Lotor again, and now that he's close to her. They hadn't really been in the same vicinity as Hagar since the big fight with Zarkon, so now she's able to regain control over Lotor. And we can have him fight with Shiro, which has a lot of tension between it because Shiro was tortured by Lotor when he was a prisoner. However, he knows that Allura really cares about him and he trusts her, so he's making sure that his attacks aren't like really gonna hurt Lotor, just like slow him down and stop him. I also want there to be some casualties of people that we've met before, maybe a couple Blades whose name we know, just to show that like this is really big, this is important, and this is gonna like solidify the impact that this war has. I also want there to be a point where the Paladins aren't fighting in their lines, so we can see more hand-to-hand combat. Lotor's generals have sided with Hagar, they're all like taking on the Paladins, while Allura fights Hagar, and we can finally see the full extent to Allura's work with Altean alchemy. And for fun, maybe we can give the Paladins some upgrades to their Bayards. So Lance is gonna get his sword. I want him to have his sword so bad. And maybe this is gonna be because he now has a stronger bond with Keith. You know how like in Harry Potter, how Tonks's Patronus changed to a wolf after she got with Remus? It's gonna be like that kind of thing. And this one, I'm not really sure about it, but I think it'd be really cool if Keith got some sort of like double sword, like really similar to like Zuko from Avatar. And this is gonna be the fight where he gets his like scar on his cheek, like if you want that, we can do that. And for Hunk's upgrade, it can be like the same kind of like turret guns that he got before, like to provide support for everybody throughout the battle. And I have no justification for this, but I really get a twin dagger vibe from Pidge, and I think that'd be a really cool new way of combat for her. And for Allura, I think her whip could get like supercharged or something. I don't really want to do too much for her because she already has like the alchemy. Alright, here's how I think the fight is going to end. Hagar is going to set something off that is going to completely decimate the entire Voltron coalition if it isn't stopped in time. This is where Allura is going to need to use what she's learned from the alchemy. However, it's going to take all the Paladins lending some of their strength in order to do so, which is only possible due to their connection to Voltron. We've seen this before with Shiro like giving himself, like some of himself up to the Black Lion to help defeat Zarkon, but because it's all 5 of them this time, it's not going to do any permanent damage to either one, like any of them. So in the end, they stop whatever is going to happen, and they use that combined strength to capture Hagar. They learn that the generals only joined Hagar's side because they think they were betrayed by Lotor, but once they learn that he was like brainwashed, they're willing to put that aside and help out where they're needed. After everything that's happened, they hold a funeral for all of the lives that were lost, and this will lead to like a party, I think like Return of the Jedi, like the end of that. And at this party, I want to see a Clance kiss, and I want to see Keith kiss Lance because I think that'd be great, and I think that we are robbed of this couple. I think to me, they were the best couple that could have happened in the show, so that's why I'm including it. Alright, I want to do like an epilogue episode type thing, like the final episode can be like catching up with everybody, like you know how they had like the final like few minutes of the last episode like to catch up with everybody. I wanted like a full episode like that to be like the final episode. I think it'd be really cool. So after this, we're going to flash forward a few years into the future. Shiro has reunited with Adam, they're married now, and Shiro is a high-ranking garrison officer that has been leading the effort in modernizing Earth's technology, alongside with like Karan and some of the Alkari. Hunk has become one of the leaders of the Voltron Coalition, working out peace treaties and settling disputes across the galaxy. Pidge and Matt have been working together throughout the galaxy to help advance the technologies of each world they come across, and just learning more about all the different worlds. Allura and Lotor have worked together to establish memorials for all of the worlds that were destroyed by the Galra, and preserving the cultures of those worlds as well as educating people on them, but they're still very active within the coalition. As for Keith and Lance, they've been traveling the galaxy together, having fun but helping out where they can, just really enjoying their time together. They've also been the ones that have been leading the effort in taking down rogue sections of the Galra Empire that still remain. I think the whole idea of them getting together for like a dinner or something is a really good idea, only Allura and Lotor are gonna be there because I refuse to kill both of them off. They're not dying. No. They all get a chance to talk about their lives, and it's really fun, and it's gonna be like the same fun dynamic that we've gotten used to with everybody. And it's just a fun ending. It's just wrapping up everyone's stories. So, as for what happens after that, that's up to you. Alright, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was so much fun for me to write. I do strongly encourage you guys to go and check out the full rewrite in the description. It was just too long for me to include in a whole video. Like, it just would not have been good, so that's why I wanted to make sure that I did a shorter version just to give you a basic summary of what I wrote. But I do, again, please read it. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think you guys will enjoy it. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely enjoy that. It just goes into a lot more detail and gives more of an explanation for something, so if something's confusing in what I said, go check that out first, and then if it's still confusing, let me know. If you have any suggestions, also let me know. And I'm always looking for ways to improve this, because I just wrote this myself. I didn't really get a ton of input on it because nobody that I really know watches this or watched Voltron when it was out, so yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, that'd be great. Subscribe for more content like this. I don't think I'll do a rewrite like this again, but more content about like TV shows and cartoons and stuff, because I'm always willing to do that. So yeah, I think that's it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!